I actually have, like the agenda says, about 4 things to talk about, so I'll try not to bore you, but stop me anytime and you want to ask a question, please. On the 28th, about 2 weeks ago, the BCC, the Board of County Commissioners, discussed and authorized a proposal to work with Benderson on a privately proposed, out-of-cycle comp plan amendment that will allow for unlimited density in commercially zoned projects. Okay, what that is the workaround to overcome the fine work that 2 lawsuits and a DOA hearing said you can't violate the comprehensive plan. And so, as you might expect, SKA Association, the Condo Council, and their sister organization, the Coalition, spoke at that meeting and opposed it, just flat opposed it. Catherine held up a copy of the 1999 comprehensive community plan that SKA put together. And on the back of it is the name of all of the commissioners and planning commission. And she said something important but simple. In 1999, the BCC agreed to commitments that are in that comprehensive plan that basically were to protect Siesta Key from increases in density and intensity and overdevelopment. Yes. And they put that in the zoning code and they called it the Siesta Key overlay. That was that sound familiar? Well, 20 years later, guess what? So Siesta Key Association and the Condo Council both stood up and said, hey, we like what we have. The ink's not even dry on these decisions. What are you guys doing? Well, the coalition stood up and said, if you're going to study this, you really ought to do it in a cycle, semi-annually. But if you're going to study it, then you ought to look at 4 options, because you don't have enough data to make a decision among them, probably. One of them was, don't do anything. That's called the no action alternative. And that's what we asked for. But there was also this Benderson proposal, which is unlimited commercial density in Sarasota County, and including the barrier islands. There was a Chamber of Commerce proposal that doubled the density. So you all heard the 26 units per acre. They wanted to go to 52, but they also wanted to put a cap on it at 75. And they also had a new addition, which is thanks to Jim Wallace. They required the county to build a model of Siesta Key, and they used that to make sure that it wasn't going to harm the public safety and good on Siesta Key by building a 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 15% of the commercial property in commercial zones. And then there was another one by Dave Ballard who stood up, and it was very similar to the condo councils, other than he wanted 52 rooms per acre with no cap on it. And really, there aren't that many, as you know, large commercial lots here on the Key. There's the South Village area where the Ask Gary, let me call it, hotel was proposed, and the big parking garage. There is Dave Ballard's 2+ acre site at the Wells Fargo, which is the biggest site. And then there is the North Village area, including where the Anderson Hotel was proposed, kind of snuck back in there behind the Siesta Key Village and Resort Hotel. And then there is a new proposal to put a hotel in where Favio's is. You know where that is, the Italian restaurant on kind of the south? They want to tear all that down, basically from the swimming suit shop down to Gilligan's, and maybe including Gilligan's, and tear it all down and build, incredibly, a 85-foot tall hotel with 210 rooms in it. And they were gonna build enough parking for half of that required, and the other half was sort of undisclosed. Although they do own that lot across the street where the French Cafe is, and maybe they'll try to put some parking in there, who knows? Anyways, we were very disappointed that the commission said no to the Wells Fargo Hotel study, said no to the Chamber of Commerce's study, which were not good, but they were at least modest and constrained. And they said, yeah, let's go study, but only study the Benderson proposal because they're such good people.
Oh, yeah.
And they voted 3-1. The commissioner who is across the bridge, that is that area, Neil Railsford, voted, he was absent. Joe Newinger.
Yeah.
Neil voted for it, and Mark Smith said, no, this is crazy. And we appreciate his support on that. So for that meeting, about a week before, the SKA Coalition had our lawyer write a pretty strong 3-page letter that said, this is just wrong. The ink's not dry yet on the court decisions. In fact, they're not even final yet in many cases. The DOA decision that said it violated the comprehensive plan still has to be approved by the governor. So it's, it seems premature. And we were really upset by it. Lourdes's lawyer wrote a nice letter and provided a good study of what the findings of fact and law were over the past 20 or 30 years that said this would be a really bad idea. And so, I think both letters kind of set some boundaries that the commission should have paid attention to, but they didn't. And they're only going to study the Benderson proposal. They're not going to even study Dave Ballot, who's been waiting for a year and a half, or the Ask Gary, who weren't party to that. So what can you say? But the fight's not over. In fact, it's just restarted again. This is about a year-long process. Go ahead.
Did you know ahead of time before that meeting that this was coming up? That was such a shocker to read that in the paper.
Some of our friends, who I won't name, gave me draft copies of the Benderson proposal and the Siesta Key and Dave Ballott's proposal. And so it gave us a chance, admittedly just a week or so before it started, to have our lawyer look at it and write a good letter. And we talked to at least 2 of them, but as you might suspect, Benderson was trying to keep this under wraps as long as possible. So they even changed it the week before and sort of narrowed it, but Benderson's is not only unlimited density, it is changing, I think it was like 6 or 7 pages of the parts of the comprehensive plan that sort of deal with this. They redefined transient and said transient, well, they eliminated the definition of transient. They said transient, in case it ever sneaks back in, only applies to residential, and that evacuation only had to worry about residential. It's a big swallow, big swallow. And we were just choking on it when we read it, and appreciated at least 2 of the 3 applicants talked with us ahead of time. Benderson was its normal style of misdirection. To add insult to injury, next Tuesday, there's another proposal out there. This is from Ask Gary and from the Village Hotel. And you aren't going to believe the audacity of this. They said that there's a county regulation that says if you had a special exception, it expires in 2 years, okay? Well, that was last October. So both of those are gone for transient use and for height. And so those expired, and I was kind of holding my breath because they can ask for an extension but the extension has to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan, which the judge just said it's not. So it seemed pretty straightforward. So, but next Tuesday, I found out yesterday, you never get this stuff ahead of time, the county publishes agenda. And they're going to, number one, change the county zoning regulations back to 26 units per acre, okay? And that kind of stuff, which they should have done that. I mean, the judge ordered them to 4 months ago. But they hadn't done anything yet. But they also want to change the definition of transient to only apply to RMF, residential multifamily, like a condo. And it says it doesn't apply anymore to commercial, which is like, what? We just won on this. And then the real audacity is if you lose your special exception and you have to go back and try again, you have to wait a year. Wait a year. So when they lose their special exception, well, you could argue they lost it in August when Lourdes's case was finalized. You could argue they're about to lose it in the Jim Wallace et al. Case, but it isn't even final yet. And then you could argue they lost it in the DOA case, which was April, except the governor hasn't finalized it yet. So it's not really final. But they're going to ask the commission in a non-public hearing to have a discussion and a vote without public input that they can be allowed sooner than 12 months from about now to come back and ask for a special exception in parallel with the comprehensive plan change. Okay, it's like, what is this? Are you kidding me?
Bob, can you back up to the one item you were talking about right before this that they requested? Just what is that again that they requested?
Well, next Tuesday, they're going to, one, change the
26.
The zoning code back to 26 units per acre.
Yeah, they were ordered by the court to do that. Now, what's the next one you mentioned?
Well, as part of that, and by the way, they also want to authorize the PCC to approve this, put it back like it was, without going to the planning commission, which is illegal, and maybe, but I doubt it, they have the authority to do it. But they also want to change a few things along the way. And I said one of them was the definition of transient.
Now, how can they do that? How can they do that?
It's
Because that's,
transient.
Well, because they're the commission, they can do what they want.
well, not legally they can't.
I agree with you, but they can, just like 2 years
But that sounds
ago.
like, my only question is, that sounds like a change to the comprehensive plan.
No, it's a change to the zoning code.
But does it, okay.
So it's a zoning code that
Is it associated with-
probably is prohibited by the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so, I mean, they did that last time, right? They said unlimited density per the zoning code, and they got slapped twice, about 3 times now, that they can't do that. And they're gonna pay out $500,000 or more of your hard-earned tax dollars to the litigants in that, Lourdes and Jim and the other people, to reimburse them for what they already spent. And thank you. So, Eileen?
I know we talked about this a little bit in our meeting, but I mean, how can you ask for a change in the definition of Webster's definition of transient? A hotel, nobody lives in a hotel. So a hotel is transient, so how are they justifying the request?
Well, the nice thing is that while the court can fall back on Webster's or Black's Legal Dictionary, they can also write their own definition, whatever they want, and put it in there. And as long as it's not illegal, they can do whatever they want until they get put out on election.
Okay, I'm Capers Jones, I work for IBM as a risk consultant, and I own a risk consultant company, Eileen and I do too. Mostly I work for the Department of Defense and Boeing and big companies, but I did a risk assessment for CSDP, and I use artificial intelligence. So today, I asked the Google Bard artificial intelligence tool, what would be the impact of large hotels on CSDP? And this is not me, this is Google Bard. Google Bard said, deliveries of packages will be delayed, ambulances and fire engines will not be able to reach Siesta Key in case of emergencies, people will not be able to evacuate in case of emergencies.
Yeah.
And the parking
Pretty
lots
smart.
will be filled. And then I said, what can be done, what are other countries doing? And they said, instead of building large hotels, build underwater hotels and parking on the mainland on artificial islands. So,
Oh, that sounds great.
And all those suggestions
Rent it out
make
and
more
turn
sense
it
than others.
Learn how to swim.
Yeah, so I don't know, this acts to try to process a special exception in parallel with comp plan change. It has two exceptions that would allow them to do this. You're gonna love this. Okay, the first one is there's an injustice.
To who?
To who? I don't know, I guess the applicant, I think is what it says. Well, the only injustice has been
All of us.
to all of us and the two hotels that asked for a comp plan change and weren't even allowed to be considered. So I think that's a bad injustice. They treated them unfairly. The other was that it would impact the safety or public welfare of the county. Both of these are like, you gotta be kidding me. There's no way they qualify for an extension on this. They just don't. They just don't. And in fact, you ask, I reflected back, you remember when we were all mystified in the spring of 21, and we said, well, they're gonna try to change this comprehensive plan, we only gotta get two people to vote against it, And then we found out, like the month before the commission review and the planning commission review, that two of those hotels had pulled their comprehensive plan amendment. Only Dave left his in, only to be ignored, but they pulled them. And I told our lawyer yesterday, that's like playing craps, rolling snake eyes, and then asking for your money back. This is, I'm sorry if you don't, you roll snake eyes, you lose, and you can't get your money back. It doesn't work that way, except at Sarasota County, maybe. So we're gonna say our piece next week, and you can watch on channel 33 or on the county website to see what happens.
It's Venice.
It'll be in Venice. To open to the public about these 12-month extensions, because and then in the afternoon, if we wait around, we'll speak to the changes in the zoning code that seem to be opposite to what the judge ruled. So I'm frustrated, but we'll fight on, Okay, two other things that I should tell you about. One is that SKA and the condo council, with the condo council in the lead, worked with the county for about 2 years on a proposal by a condo to be able to rebuild their condo, okay? Sounds okay. If it had been destroyed by a hurricane, by the way, they would have been able to rebuild, and the only thing they had to do was comply with the zoning code. Okay, they had to build the right height, build it up 19 feet, and they had to obey the setbacks and everything like that. Well, they want to rebuild according to the building code, except for setbacks, because they like their condo footprint that goes out beyond the Gulf Coast setback line. In other words, they're out in the dunes, and they want to be able to build that instead of going back. So we testified against that at a workshop, which is, just kind of, and this was developed by the county, put on by the county, so it's in cycle and it's county, not privately developed. And the commission approved it 5-0 to go ahead and, I'm sorry, they had originally proposed it to allow the staff to study it. Now it's got to go, since it's been through the neighborhood workshop, sometime in the next few months. It's supposedly after 75 working days, they're supposed to go to the planning commission and then on to the BCC. And it requires a comprehensive plan change, so it theoretically has to go up to the state, because they've already declared it a major action, and then it comes back. So this is another one of these one-year things, but we'll see. I mean, the thing that bothered me most is they want to skirt around the building code for an alleged corrosion or material problem to their structure to avoid the kind of Palm Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale problem.
Yeah.
But we had recommended to them that you be required to do an engineering study to prove you got a structural problem there. I mean, you would think most people want to do it unless Benderson was going to buy them out and build something else there. But they disagreed. They said, we don't have to do an engineering study, but nonetheless, you can build to an out of compliance footprint. Just have to comply with the rest of the building code. So that's not going so well, but we're trying.
Is that owned by one private entity? It's the
C Club 5.
It's C Club 5, so it's a timeshare.
shares, right? So it's
Timeshare.
actually owned by one specific company. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
think that's right.
So they didn't take care of their building. They
Yeah.
are a for-profit company,
Yeah,
and now they're wanting to profit off of that. Am
yeah.
I
Either
correct?
they're going to rebuild, because a lot of their rooms are small, 600 square foot studios, and they want to build nice 3-bedroom. They want to build up to 45 feet, and so.
Where's this at?
C Club 5, it's down that way, but not as far as Stickney
It's not
Point,
far as
but on Midnight Pass,
Okay, thank you.
on the ocean side, of course, so they can build out closer to the ocean.
I
Eileen?
wanted to add at that meeting, the people who were proponents for the 168 Beach Road, right?
No, this is C Club 5.
Is
It's
it
a different
called
one, but yeah,
I'd like to make another point, at
Sure.
that same meeting we were at, when you spoke to, 168 Beach Road, was asking for permission to build closer to the water on land that comes and goes.
yeah.
And the county just said, sure, go ahead. So when that $8 million house gets built and washed into the sea, and their insurance company has to pay for it, they go our rates straight up into the
Yeah.
sky. So that's another example of county commissioners just not paying attention to
Yeah.
anything but.
168 Beach Road is kind of behind the village, where access 4 is. It's that lot just to the north of it there. And in 1979, twice the county turned down the proposal to build a 7,000 square foot house on pilings. And they offered to buy it, the lot, for $1.4 million, and the then owners turned it down. So at the same disastrous, the 28th meeting, they were back. A new owner, who's an SKA member, asked to build a 4,200 square foot lot house, which a pool that extended 200 feet beyond the Gulf Coast setback line. And they were going to tear out the dunes and then replant the dunes. And we like we did in 1979, said, you shouldn't do that. It's a violation of the GBSL. But they approved that 5-0, by the way. So, but we tried, and that's getting frustrating. But, okay, 2 more things, and I'll finish up. One is the Siesta Promenade, our favorite little Benderson proposal. The Siesta Promenade, you saw, built a traffic light out there in the middle of Stickney Point Road, but they haven't turned it on. And they have to get the county permission to turn it on, okay? And the county also was pretty smart when they gave them permission to build Siesta Promenade, because they said, you gotta have a way to get in and out, and the only way out is by building a traffic light there. So their permits are all conditioned on a traffic light. And FDOT, I don't know what they did. Their rules say they're not allowed to put a traffic light between 41 and the bridge. But nonetheless, they sort of said yes, and then they internally, and then when it got appealed, they said the people appealing who are residents of Siesta Key don't have standing, and therefore we won't even hear your case. So I want to tell you that my good friend Jim Wallace is once again hiring a lawyer to try to challenge that traffic light, and he is willing to accept contributions to a lawyer trust to try to fight that traffic light. And I think he's got a pretty good case, honestly, because it builds on Lourdes's DOA hearing, which said that the main roads that access Siesta Key, Stickney Point and Siesta Drive, are part of Siesta Key, and you need to consider their traffic before you approve something. And nobody's ever studied that. And yet, here's a traffic light that Stickney Point backs up. Now they're going to start stopping it every 85 seconds or so and let traffic come in and out of the Benderson proposal when there's 400 and some odd apartments and hotel rooms. It's ridiculous. And so the next thing you'll want to do parallel parking on Stickney Point.
Do we have the handouts for them?
Yeah, there are handouts on the table back there that give the address where you could send this to a lawyer's trust. And if there's any left over, you'll get your prorated share back. But I think it's a worthy cause, and here's some more. And Jim, if you'd like to say anything, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, let me, we have, let me see. I think the way, stepping back here just a little bit, Bob has done a wonderful job here, and he and I have been very close. Yeah. He and I have been very close on this matter for a very long time. The difference between, some time ago, let me just say, some time ago, I walked into Spencer Anderson's office, this was probably 2 years ago, and I said, I'm sick of suing because I was involved in the first Siesta Promenade lawsuit that was referred to just a minute ago. And I said, I'm sick of suing. Let's do a model of Siesta Key so we can make decisions in a rigorous fashion. And in my career, I had teams multiple times that built huge mathematical models of all different kinds of situations. And I lined up professional engineers to do this. And we have a model right today of Stickney Point Road to Midnight Pass and up to 41 that takes it, that actually takes into consideration pedestrian traffic down at the corner, the bridge going up and down, and Siesta Promenade in and out. And we used that earlier in the first case, and we still have it. We still have the professional engineer lined up. In fact, we had, when I walked in there, I had a team for Spencer Anderson, a team of people prepared to build a model for Siesta Key. Well, he originally said, oh, this is, that's a good idea and so forth. But once he found out that, particularly Commissioner Mark Smith, who's great, really liked the idea. And in fact, it was included, the notion of this model was included in the Siesta Key Chamber of Commerce proposal that Bob talked about a little while ago that got turned down from these guys. The clear case here is that when you start talking about changes to the comprehensive plan, there's two things going on now. They're trying to change our comprehensive plan. One of the lawsuits actually called it Siesta Key's Constitution. That's the way you should think about it.
That's okay.
These guys are trying to change our Constitution on this key. And they're trying to do it, and they're trying to do it in an illegal fashion once again. Well, there's one group of folks that are worrying about trying to legally deal with their attempts to change the comprehensive plan. The March 1989 comprehensive plan, March 13th, 1989, Sarasota County comprehensive plan had a component specifically dealing with Siesta Key. Two separate courts looked at it, DOA and let's call it the Carl case before the district court. Two separate courts did a totally independent analysis of what our comprehensive plan is, came up with the same answer that I just gave you. There's no question about what should be controlling the land use on this key And importantly, what? The access roads. That was really, really, really important, okay? So let me just say, there's a group of people that are doing everything they can, using legal options and so forth to try to deal with the comprehensive plan changes. But for God's sake, it's obvious that before you change the constitution of the key and its access roads, how about having a model of the key and tell us what it's going to look like for the next 10 years, right? Upside, downside cases, we got house hotels growing like hell. We need to know the implication of that. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Okay, so there's another effort, and I'm just tangentially involved in that one. The one I am involved in and have up and running with a legal team already, let me just say, they ain't going away. And we are looking for some help on that matter. I'd rather not pay what I normally do, 90% of the damn costs of some of these projects. I'm getting a little tired of that. But what really upsets me about this is these decisions, these callous decisions on the part of these commissioners are gonna kill people. I mean, in '98, I wrote a letter to the Board of County Commissioners asking them, before they approve the damn thing, they need to look at live loss from emergency vehicle travel time. We live in the South End, all the way down at the South End of Somerset Cay, my wife and I. I had to take her to the emergency room right before we went north for the summer. So she woke up at 4 in the morning. She was in terrible pain, and I drove her on it, and it was a Sunday. I drove her to the emergency room. Boy, oh boy, did that reinforce in my mind this whole business of emergency vehicle travel time. But it isn't just emergency vehicles, it's fire trucks, right? In tourist season, you're talking about, right? Think about it. How are they gonna force people out of the way, right? So what the upshot of it is, let me tell you how bad. There's videos of both board meetings that were involved here. And you should look at that video. It's a short period of time, but it's about 15 minutes to watch the Board of County Commissioners, which was 4-1, voted 4-1 to do this comprehensive plan, to do the Siesta Promenade, to approve Siesta Promenade and therefore the light. 4-1. What happened before it? Bob got up, talked about the traffic impact of that light. Neil from the condo council got up, talked about the traffic light. A lawyer working for me at the time got up and, oh, I forgot to tell you, prior to this meeting even coming off, a letter went from my lawyer, Ralph Brooks, to all the commissioners saying, you can't approve this thing because if you do it, you're violating the comprehensive plan, the Constitution. You're gonna violate the Constitution, right? That's what we told him. My lawyer told him. Why? Because March 8, 1989 comprehensive plan says you can't change, the place is logged up. The roads are all Ds and Fs. You can't change the density and you can't change the density through a land use activity on Siesta Key. That's what our comprehensive plan says. Okay, so they got a letter from my lawyer. At the meeting, a lawyer got up and said, what I just repeated what they got in writing, namely that you have 2 court cases that said that you can't approve it, right? In addition, we supplied an affidavit from my professional attorney, professional engineer, talking about the impact of that light. You don't have to do a big model analysis to know. If you have a light that's timed at 85 seconds, every 85 seconds, you got 2 left turn lanes, 2 pedestrian crossings, and it's 85 seconds. Why do they do such a short time? Because FDOT demands it because they don't want the Stickney Point 41 intersection to get bound up, so they turn the light on and off more frequently than they normally would with that functionality. So they had that affidavit. You need to watch the video just to see how it went, because Mark Smith looked over at the Moy, the county attorney, And he said to him, well, now you've lost 2 lawsuits to these guys, to these same law firms, and they're telling you can't do this. And he turned to Moye, the county attorney, said, what advice would you give the commissioners? And he answered it, he said, the essence of his answer, it was a very short answer, you'll see, but when you watch the video, he said, Sarasota County no longer has concurrency. What that meant was that Sarasota County, outside of Siesta Key, no longer forces somebody doing a land use change to worry about the impact of their land use change on the transportation of the area. Okay? The state passed a law that allowed counties to do that if they wanted to, and Sarasota County did it. Okay? But it was totally irrelevant to us here, because our Constitution, our comprehensive plan, has been defined by two courts to be, as I alluded to earlier, no change in density, no change in intensity, which means you can't do anything that's going to significantly impact traffic flow. So the upshot of it is, Moyes told him, and I doubt that any of them had a clue what that meant, but what the statement even meant. Nobody asked for clarification, and Mark Smith did not, he just let it roll from there. But the point is, these guys were sitting there with facts, and what Mark did say was, I would expect you to lose your 3rd case in a row from this group of lawyers. That's what Mark told them after they made the decision. My job is to make that happen, okay? And your job is to help if you feel like it. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on it from here. But there's a document around that I'll be happy to provide. If anybody wants it, I'll give you my business card and you can email me the request and I'll send it by email. There's a couple of documents. One is that we have now in place a Scheidel letter, what's called a Scheidel letter. Every state has them. And basically what it means is, and they've gotten it, and basically what it says is, if we win this case, you're going to put everything back the way it was.
Right.
Okay, you like that? Okay. The other thing I would tell you is that if we get our fees back on this case, right, anybody who donates to help this happen, if we can get our fees back, I'll give everybody their money back proportionally to what's in there and so forth. So I'll treat everybody fairly on that score. I don't want this damn money, right? I don't want anybody else's money on this thing. And so that's basically it. If you want more information, and I'll be around until the meeting's over, and I'll give you a card and I'll send you some stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Let's see, I had,
Bobby, one quick question.
yeah,
Doesn't the state also have, I don't know, trump over, the county when it comes to protecting a barrier island?
yes,
Actually, the state comprehensive plan does deal with some of these issues, and we cite in our litigation the state comprehensive plan as well. It's not as clear cut as these 2 cases. Okay, unfortunately, they worry most about evacuation. In a case of evacuation, the lights are all going to be green. At least you got 24 hours to get people off. They just sit around and don't go. I mean, there's that. This whole business of emergency and fire trucks, that's a different matter.
Yeah, emergency, they're not gonna try and bring me out.
How's it going to help? You're already in stop and go. I asked the fire chief at a meeting that a lot of you guys attended a long time ago, how do you feel about the light at Stickney Point? I asked the fire chief at a big meeting with a lot more people than this. You know what he said to me? I don't deal in politics. I said, come on, this involves lives. He said it to me again. I went to the back of the hall and talked loud enough that everybody heard what he answered me. I said, come on, you can't leave this meeting and let that be what your official position is. He said, as long as they'll let me turn the light green, I'll approve it. I said, you're dealing with a light, you're turning a light green on stop and go traffic. Right, just think about that. What is it gonna do to the travel time of a vehicle trying to get there and get off or whatever the hell?
Smooth if all four lanes have cars in them.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Thank you, Jim.
yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, I have